Hey, welcome to ElektroBox. I'm Jacob. Saving money is usually boring, so I wanted to make it more fun. That's why I built this, a Piggy Bank Slot Machine. Every inserted coin gives one spin. Small wins give extra spins, but if I hit the jackpot 777, the gate opens and I can access the money chamber. I started with the coin detection. To keep it simple, I used the TCST2103 optical switch. This is basically a small light gate with an infrared LED on one side and a phototransistor on the other side. If there is no coin, the infrared light reaches the phototransistor. If a coin falls through the slot, it blocks the light. And that change is what I use as my coin signal. The infrared LED is powered from 5 volts. To limit the current, I use a 220 ohm resistor. For the signal side, I use the phototransistor like a switch to ground. The collector is connected to the ESP32 input pin and also pulled up to 3.3 volts with a 10 kilo ohm resistor. The emitter is connected to ground, so the logic is simple. When there is no coin, the phototransistor is active and pulls the ESP32 input to 0 volts. When a coin blocks the light, the phototransistor turns off and the pull-up resistor pulls the ESP32 input to 3.3 volts. Before continuing, I tested the sensor on a breadboard setup. For this first prototype, I used the ESP32 mainly to provide power. And as you can see, the sensor reacts reliably when a coin passes through the light gate. Next, I needed a spin button. Here I used the internal pull-up resistor of the ESP32. That means the input is normally high. When I press the button, the pin is connected to ground, so the signal goes low. In the firmware, I detect this falling edge and trigger the spin event. The slot machine logic is also simple. Each spin creates 3 symbols on the display. If the result is 777, that is the jackpot. Then the ESP32 activates the gate, motor and opens the money chamber. Other winning combinations do not open the gate. Instead, they give extra spins so the player can continue without inserting any other coin. This keeps the machine fun, but the real reward only happens with the jackpot. With the coin sensor, the spin button and the basic winning logic working, I could test the full electronic setup. For this I reused my small hardware monitor. It shows me directly if the coin recognition and button input are working correctly. After the electronics test, I started with the full build. I began with the coin detection module. Instead of using a separate PCB, I soldered the resistors and wires directly to the leads of the sensor. This is not the cleanest final solution, but for a prototype it has one big advantage. I can route the cables more freely inside the housing. The housing uses a 2-chamber design. The left chamber contains the electronics and the gate motor. The right chamber is the money chamber. The coin sensor sits at the top of the money chamber directly below the coin slot. That way, every inserted coin must pass through the light gate before it drops into the storage area. After a more or less successful 3D print, I started the assembly with another quick function test. First, I screwed the coin sensor into its defined position. Then I attached the front plate with the button. For this prototype I used an old soldering iron to heat and melt the plastic edges together. This works surprisingly well with PLA prints, but of course you need to be careful not to overheat or deform the visible parts. Next I finished the cable management and placed the display. Here I noticed a small issue. The display was mounted upside down. Luckily, that is an easy software fix. I just rotated the display output by 180 degrees in the firmware. Another quick function check, I continue closing the housing. Again, I used the soldering iron to connect some of the open plastic edges. At this stage the prototype was definitely not perfect, but it was complete enough for a first real test. And this is the first working prototype of my Piggy Bank Slot Machine. It still needs improvements, especially in the housing design, cable management and the gate mechanism, but the basic idea works. In the next version I want to make the design cleaner, improve the gate mechanism and build a more arcade-like front panel. So if you want to see the final version of the Piggy Bank Slot Machine, subscribe to ElektroBox. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.